Today what I'm doing is I'm kegging a beer. I'm kegging a beer that I call Hoppy Camper Citrus IPA. It's a Dale's Pale Ale clone, but I substituted some of the hop additions to be Citra hops. I also use something new that's called cryo hops. I'm not sure how they do it. I think it's something to do with how they freeze it and lock in a lot of the lupulin oils. So I use that for my dry hop. So what I'm doing is I'm coming from this 15-gallon fermenter, which is probably have about 12 gallons of beer in it right now. And I'm going into this keg. I'm draining it right in. I'm using all gravity. I'm not pushing it through with any CO2 or anything. I'm just transferring it into here. And the process is, it takes a while to get set up. You gotta clean the kegs really good. You gotta I pull my kegs completely apart. I take all of the attachments off, all of the couplers off, and I clean everything nice and clean. And then I fill it up with sanitizer. So I fill the first keg up with sanitizer, let it sit for a little bit, flush it out and put it into the second keg. While that's sanitizing, this one's filling up. So I'm about 3/4 of the way full on this keg, and when it's done, I'm gonna do what they call forced carbonation. And that's when you take your CO2 bottle and you attach it to the keg at about 30 PSI. Then you put it on the floor and you roll it and you shake it. And the shaking action actually forces bubbles to form in the solution, and then CO2 to backfill for that. Because CO2 is heavier than oxygen, so it's going to backfill and force its way into the beer. And I'm going to let that sit at 30 PSI for about 10 minutes to kind of cool down. I'm going to bleed it off. Then I'm going to connect it to my keg, and I can actually start drinking this beer tonight if I wanted to. But so I'll probably have a pint or two tonight. But ideally, the perfect carbonation for this beer would take about 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the recipe that I use. So that's what I'm doing today. Just a quick primer on kegging. Just all you got to do is clean your kegs really good, sanitize them, get your beer in there, force carbonate, bleed it off, hook it up to the kegerator, let it sit for a week or two. I let mine sit for at about 20 PSI for a day or two. Then I drop it down to about 10 PSI for another 6 or 7 days. And if it's not ready, I'll leave it at 10. I usually serve at about 4 or 5 PSI. So that's it. That's all I'm doing today is I'm kegging. Thanks for watching.